So what we're going to tackle in this video is our passing pose and our low pose. So let's start off by doing, and again, we're just sort of looking at tricks, and then we can go back and look at good drawing and cleaning up and stuff. Um, what's interesting about the passing pose is you can get a lot of very interesting movement or character performance out of just how the character goes through the passing pose. What we're doing now is very basic and generic. We're focusing on the legs. So if you notice from our first frame here, we're up on our heel, and what we're going to do on 7 is we're just going to draw a box that represents the foot, and it's going to cover that entire shadow area that we were looking at. So at this point, our foot went flat, and our hips have moved right above our foot. Now, mind you, this leg here is our innermost leg, right? That blue leg. And then this foot, in order to counterbalance weight, it starts to slide forward, or this leg rather. So I'm just going to draw that upper part of the leg, and then here we go. And then I'm just going to draw another box for a foot. Now what you want to do is clean up that front leg, which is here. I'm just grabbing my eraser and erasing that out. And again, don't worry too much about quality of drawing. We're just sort of learning the program, and we're learning a very basic generic walk cycle. And with anything, the only way to get good at this stuff is to just practice. So here's 7. And the same as before, I'm going to hold control, highlight this, copy this, and the other passing pose is on 19. So I'm going to click on 19 here. Let's click on this guy here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Control V. Now what's kind of annoying is um, my pivot point is all the way out here, right? And what I want to do is have it centered. So if you don't see this panel here, go to Window, Toolbars, and turn on Advanced Animation. And then I want you to click on this guy so we can move our pivot to the center of our leg. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that so that it locks it in place. Or I'm sorry, click back on here. And then now I can just click on that and there we go, just move it to where I need it to be over here. So on frame 19, I'm just, again, covering up that shadow. I'm going to go back up here to my brush. And now, remember, our leading leg is now the right leg. So these get flipped, right? So like you can see now, I'm going to erase this out so you can, this leg gets covered. And we can just straighten this out. Okay, and as we flip through this, if I hit Shift and Enter, you can see, and something that you can that'll maybe help out a little bit is if you click here and you just do 12 frames, that'll almost make it automatically on 2. You can see it a little bit. There we go. And he's almost across the stride. Now this is a very generic walk. Some people, it might take, you know, 6 or 7 steps depending on how tall they are to get across. All right, so what we want to do is our passing pose. So at this point, we're going to go to 4, and our hip, our hips are essentially at this point in between these, and it's lower. Our body is arcing down. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a box that's slightly lower. Now, our foot, which for our leading leg now is that inside one, is still over here, but at this point, it's gone flat. So I'm still going to draw that box, that same box from before. But this time, I'm going to go about halfway here for the knee, and then I'm going to just connect it from that back leg like this. So now that we've squatted down on that leg. Now this foot, what happened is we went up on our toes, and I'm going to just draw a line that goes straight out like this, and then up. And I'll just clean that up a little bit. So there's our frame 4. I'm going to hold Control, highlight this, copy it, and then the other low point is at 16. So here's 4. We have 12. So it's right here. I'm just going to hit Control V, and I'm going to move that over here. So we're looking at roughly in the middle there. I'm just covering up that shadow. And you can find tons of reference on the internet, online, of the Richard Williams stuff and different Disney walk cycles across. So once you've gotten this down, these key poses, it's a good idea to go in and just try to sketch out or copy another walk with this basic structure. Later, if you talk to any professional animators, they're like, "Oh, I don't use any sort of predefined number system and things like that." But they've also reached a stage in their skill set where they're able to quickly pump these drawings out and look at the tweaking. I mean, they can see into the future, and that's what a pro artist can do. Is A, they practice every day, and B, they can foresee what the next movement is just through practice. Because we're still only at 5 minutes, I think it'd be a good idea to go ahead and tackle the high pose. Our high poses are at 10, frame 10, and 22. So here's frame 10. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to shrink these down a little bit so we're only looking at a few of our frames on our onion skin. So I only want to look at the first couple in front of it. So here's 10. I really just want to look at this one and this one because otherwise it can get a little much. So on frame 10, we are in between these two poses. We're starting to go higher than this pose because we're pushing off. So I'm going to draw that box somewhere in the middle like that. And what happens to the foot is we just half of our box starts to arc up. So there's our foot. And then we're pushing off of that foot. Sometimes you'll see people go straight up on the toes itself. I like it a little bit more subtle. And for now, just draw a straight box like this, and then bring it down, and then just draw another box. It's pretty exaggerated. This foot is looking, it's sort of planning. A lot of times you'll see really good animation where it's pointing down to guide the viewer's eye to where the shadow is, where the foot is going next. But we're not focusing so much on making a perfect drawing, right? So let's go ahead and erase this so we can tell just our planning phase for a viewer that we remember which is the front leg or a leading leg. So here's this. And as I mentioned before, on frame 22, this is our other one. So to make our lives easier, I'm going to hold control and copy this, jump to 22, and I'm just going to paste it there. And oops, there we go. And I'm just going to move it here and then extend this so we can see that final pose, our 24. So we want to be somewhere like this, lined up with this foot. And we're going to get a little bit of swimming because of the scale, so I'm actually going to pull this down a little bit. Now, notice my scale is off. It's scaling there. I'm going to do that same thing as before and just move this to the middle here. And then I can, there we go, a little bit better. So let's move this down. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit Shift and Enter. And we're starting to see it. Yeah. So we're getting that motion down. It's not the most beautiful set of drawings, but we're learning, right? We're getting those. We're in our very early stages of learning this walk, and it's getting there. Let's just scrub through it with F and G. So let's click here, bring our brush back. I'm going to turn off onion skinning. So, and actually, we can identify this. Well, we'll talk about setting keys and breaks and stuff later, but you can see here we have, there we go. All right, I think I'm going to end this one here. And the next one we'll talk about arcs and spaces and in-betweens.